Hello viewers, this Dow Too Fast here. Now several videos ago I did a review of this 70mai 4K T800 Dashcam. This Dashcam records in 4K resolution, has 3 cameras for the front, rear and cabin. Overall is an excellent performing Dashcam. Now recently 70mai came out with a battery pack that you can install into your vehicle to power the Dashcam's parking surveillance mode. By having a dedicated battery pack for the parking mode, it'll give you a much longer runtime, and you no longer have to worry about putting wear on your car battery like you would when you hardwire into the fuse box for the parking mode. In this video, I'll show you how to install this battery pack and show you examples of the parking surveillance recording. So make sure you watch till the end. Let's get started. Right here is the 70mai Dashcam battery pack. I'll unbox it and show you what comes with it. Right here is the installation guide, user manual. This is a Dashcam battery pack. It comes with Velcro straps for securing the battery in the car. Fuse taps. There's a fuse box charging cable. USB-C output cable. There's a parking surveillance cable adapter. Here's a look at everything you get with this battery pack. I also got the cigarette lighter charging cable. And with this cable, I can charge the battery pack by plugging in this cigarette lighter power adapter directly into my 12-volt accessory port. Therefore, I do not need to hardwire the power cable into the fuse box. This way, the installation is going to be a lot simpler, but do keep in mind, the charging time is slower if you use this cable versus the hardwire cable here. So let's have a closer look at this battery pack. Overall, it's not a very large unit, so you can fit this underneath your seat or in the glove box or possibly behind a dash. As for dimension, it's about 8¾ inch long, about 5 inch wide, and the height is about 1.5 inch. Looking on this side, right here is a DC input port. This is where you plug in the charging cable to charge a battery pack. Next to it is a 12-volt output port. So if you're using the 70mai 4G Hardwire Kit, you need to connect this output port to the Hardwire Kit. Over here is a USB-C 5-volt DC output. This is for connecting directly to the Dashcam without the 4G Hardwire Kit. And over here you have the on-off switch. And here's a look on the other side. On this label you can see the model number is BL96NNX. The DC output is rated at 11.2 volt to 14.2 volt at 2 amp max. The Type-C output is rated at 5 volt, 2.4 amp max. And you can charge this battery pack with a DC input of 11.2 volt all the way to 30 volt. The discharge temperature, which will be the operating temperature, is minus 10 degrees Celsius to 60 degrees Celsius or 14 degrees Fahrenheit to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Inside is a lithium iron phosphate battery cell, so it's very safe and stable to use. Now inside this device there is a built-in BMS or battery management system, and with it has smart current control and 20-second delay charging. It also has overheat protection, over voltage protection, deep discharge protection, and short circuit protection. Now before I go over all the wiring to this battery pack, I want to take a minute to talk about the benefit of having a dedicated Dashcam battery. Now when you hardwire Dashcam into the fuse box, you're using power directly from the car battery to power the Dashcam. Even though that works, your car battery was never intended to power a device while the engine is not running. That car battery is really designed to only start your vehicle. So over time you are putting wear on the car battery because it's constantly being discharged. Now a much better solution is to install a dedicated car dash camera battery like the one you see right here. With this battery, when your car is running, your alternator is charging this battery pack and is not using power from the car battery. Now when you turn off the ignition, this battery pack will automatically output the voltage it needs to power the Dashcam for parking mode recording. So with that said, your car battery is never used for parking mode function. Another benefit of using this dedicated battery is the runtime of the parking mode. When you hardwire Dashcam to the fuse box and it's drawing power from the car battery, the runtime might be 2 to 5 hours only. When it comes to the runtime of the battery pack, this can power the Dashcam anywhere from 24 to 40 hours. So that's why if you want to use a parking mode function on a Dashcam, I highly recommend you get a dedicated Dashcam battery pack. Now let me go over the wiring for this device. Right here are the 2 input charging cables. This one at the top is the hardwire cable that you need to connect to your fuse box to charge a battery pack. At the bottom here, this is the cigarette lighter charging cable that you need to plug into your car's 12-volt accessory port. Now there is a difference between the 2 charging time. Using this cigarette lighter cable is about 90 minutes to fully charge a battery. With this cable, the charging time is about 16 minutes. Now they've also included these fuse taps here. Now the wiring on the hardwire cable, there is a VCC or constant 12 volt wire right here with the ring terminal. You need to connect this to chassis ground. And this last one here is the accessory 12 volt or ignition 12 volt. And on the output of both of these cables, you have this connector. So choose a cable you want to use and then plug this connector into the DC input. For the output wire, you have two choices here. This one here is a USB-C output wire. And with this cable, simply connect this USB-C connector to the 5 volt output and then plug the other end into the Dashcam's power input port. Now, if you have a 70mai 4G hardwire kit that you see right here, then you'll need to connect this hardwire kit to this output cable that you see right here that has these three connectors. And for those of you who have not seen my previous videos on the 70mai Dashcam review, inside this box you'll need to install a SIM card. Once this is powered on, using the 70mai app, you can actually do vehicle tracking and look at the live view from the Dashcam remotely. And to connect this to this wiring harness, you'll need to take these three wires and connect it to these three connectors here. The way you use this terminal block is to pull up on this orange lever, it's spring loaded, and then put the bare wire inside and then push this down and it'll lock that wire in place. Do that for the other wires also, and that's how you connect this hardwire kit to this output cable. Then you'll connect this connector to the output port on the battery pack. Now with this hardwire kit, it does have its own output cable, and with this cable you'll plug this into the power input of the Dashcam. So let's take this to the vehicle, get this installed, and we'll test out the parking mode function of this 70mai 4K T800 Dashcam. On the Dashcam, connect the USB-C power cable. Next you need to run this cable up to the headliner over to the A-pillar. On the A-pillar, pull back on the weather stripping, and then pull back on this cover. Route the power wire behind the side curtain airbag. And then route this wire along the side here down to your fuse box. Once the cable is ran, reinstall this panel and then reinstall the weather stripping. Run this along the side, tuck it behind, and then reinstall the weather stripping. For the USB-C power cable from the Dashcam, you can plug this directly into the USB-C output. But if you are using the 4G hardwire kit, you see on the side there is a USB-C port. You want to plug this cable into the side here. For this install, I will be installing this 4G hardwire kit. And to connect the 4G hardwire kit to the battery pack, I will need to use this wiring harness you see right here. On these three terminals, I'll be connecting the red, yellow, and black wire. I'll go ahead and pull up on the orange lever. This will release the spring contact inside. I'll connect the red wire to the wire that's marked VCC. Push the wire all the way in, and then push down on this lever, and lock it in place. Next, I'll connect the yellow wire to the wire that's marked ACC accessory. The last wire is a black wire that connects to GND or ground. And now these three wires are connected. Now at the end of this wire, you have this yellow connector. When it comes time to connecting this to the battery pack, you need to plug this into the output port right here. For the input charging cable, as I mentioned earlier, you have two options. This one here is the cigarette lighter charging cable. Installing this is pretty straightforward. You plug this yellow connector into the input port and then run this wire over to your center console where you have the 12 volt accessory port. Now for this install, I do want to show you how to install this input power cable. And with this one, you do need to connect to the fuse box. Now on this Nissan vehicle, the fuse box is located behind this panel on the driver's side. Go ahead and remove this panel. On the back, there's a label here showing you which fuse is for what circuit. Now with the fuse tap, I do need to tap into ignition 12 volt and constant 12 volt. And for this vehicle, there are several different locations that I can choose. But do keep in mind, every make and model is going to be different, so you do need to find the fuse that will work for you. And it's best that you use a multimeter and check that voltage before plugging it in. Also, you do not want to tap into any circuit that's critical to the operation of the vehicle, like ABS, SRS airbag, or the car's computer. Now this Dashcam battery pack do require a high current, constant 12 volt power. And it's recommended you find a 20 amp fuse. And on this vehicle, I'll be tapping into this power socket cargo battery, which is 20 amp. For the ignition 12 volt wire, you don't need a lot of current, so I'll be tapping into this 5 amp fuse that's marked electrical parts ignition 1. Now during the unboxing I mentioned this comes with different style of fuses, and for this vehicle I'll be using this one, and this fuse is the same style as the one that's in the fuse box. So for your vehicle, just choose a fuse tap that matches yours. Looking at the fuse box, the 20 amp fuse that I'll be tapping into is this one right here, and for the ignition 12 volt, right here is a 5 amp fuse that I'll be tapping into. So right here I have a multimeter set to DC voltage measurement. I'll connect the negative probe to the chassis ground underneath the dash. And with a red positive probe, I can probe the end of the fuse and check which one has constant 12 volt. First, I'll check the constant 12 volt fuse. As you can see, it's 12.54 volt. Now if I probe the 5 amp fuse, which is ignition, with the engine off, it should give me 0 volt. And it's 0 volt right now. I'll start the vehicle and check the ignition fuse again. With the ignition on, I'll test it again. And you see it's 14.46 volt. Now one last step I recommend you doing is pulling out the fuse, and with the fuse out, use a multimeter and test which side has the voltage coming in. Because when you install the fuse tab, you want the voltage to go in on this left side here, go through the fuse, and come out on this red wire. Now I'm going to pull out the 20 amp fuse and the 5 amp fuse. Now on this vehicle, I already tested which side the power comes in, and it comes in on the left side, it goes through the fuse, and goes out on the right side. Right here is the included fuse tab with a 20 amp fuse. With the original fuse that you pulled out, install it into the bottom slot of the fuse tab. I'll plug this into the fuse slot. Now with the accessory wire or ignition 12 volt wire, the install guy asks you to wrap this wire on the fuse leg. I don't really recommend that because you don't know if you have a good connection and you don't want any of the frayed wire shorting out that fuse. So for this install, I'll be using my own fuse tab. In the top slot, I installed a 5 amp fuse. Right here is a fuse from the fuse box. Install it in the bottom slot. Now I can plug this into the fuse box. So at this time I have the ignition 12 volt fuse tab and the constant 12 volt fuse tab installed. I'll route this cable behind the fuse box. Now connect the VCC wire to the constant 12 volt fuse tab. From the factory they forgot to slip on the insulation that goes around the end here. If I plug this in, this end here is exposed. There should be a rubber sleeve that fits over it. If you see that on yours, make sure you get some electrical tape and tape this up. Next I'll connect the ACC wire to my fuse tab. So both wires are connected now. Go ahead and tuck the extra wire behind the panel. The last wire I need to connect is this ground wire. What you want to do is look underneath the dash and look for a grounding bolt that you can connect this to. Now I highly recommend you use a multimeter and test that grounding bolt to make sure it is a true ground. And I'll be connecting that ground wire to a bolt that's underneath the hood release. So here I'll connect my negative probe from the meter directly onto the chassis here. Right now the multimeter is set to measure resistance, and I'll take the positive probe and probe the grounding bolt. And here you see it's measuring 2.5 ohm, which is a good ground. Now with the 3 wires connected, we install this panel. With a 4G Hardwire Kit, find a space behind the dash and tuck it behind it and use some tie wrap and secure the wires. Now in most vehicles, you'll be able to fit that battery pack right underneath the driver's seat. Right now I move the driver's seat to the front and you can see I've lost space to put the battery pack right here. Next, pull up on the side step panel and route both the input and output wire underneath this carpet along the factory wiring harness. Now when you get to this area where the seat is, go ahead and run the 2 wires underneath the seat rails. Make sure you have enough slack. Tie up the extra wire with tie wraps, and then you tuck this underneath the carpet. Now I can reinstall this panel. Now behind the driver's seat, underneath, I have the 2 wiring harness. First I'll connect the output cable. Now I'll connect the input cable. Turn on the battery pack. Use the included Velcro straps to secure this onto the carpeting. Now before you tuck this underneath the seat, be aware that there are vents at the bottom for the heats. If it's possible, place the battery pack above the vent or turn it sideways so it's not blocking the vents. Now when the engine's running, you can see the battery's being charged. Once I turn off the ignition, the charging will stop. Again, with this system, you'll never use any power from the car battery, and you don't have to worry about putting wear on your car battery. With everything wired up, I'll turn on the ignition. The dashcam will power on and begin recording all 3 cameras. Next, use the 70mai app and connect to the dashcam. Also make sure the Wi-Fi on the dashcam is turned on. Go to settings. Scroll down to parking security. Let's go through the settings here. Duration, by default set to 24 hours. You can leave it at 24 hours because the parking mode will continue running until the battery pack runs out of power. Collision detection, by default is enabled. Sensitivity is set to high. So while the vehicle is parked, if there's an impact to the vehicle, the G sensor in the dashcam will sense that and record that event. Start upon the engine turns off, by default set to respond instantly. So once you turn off the engine, if there's an impact right away, it'll detect that impact. If you want to postpone it for 5 minutes, you can. And the LED indicator light on the dash cam is enabled. Motion detection. By default, motion detection is enabled. So when the camera detects any motion, it will record the events. Sensitivity is set to medium. And the indicator light is turned on. Time-lapse recording. By default is off. If you want, you can enable this. When you do time-lapse recording in parking mode, the dashcam will record time-lapse recording continuously while the ignition is off and the vehicle is parked. Recording footage. Now by default is only front camera, so any event is only recording front camera. You have the option to choose front camera and cabin camera, front camera and rear camera, and front camera and cabin camera and rear camera. I'm going to select front and rear camera, so it will record what's happening outside the vehicle. Okay, let's go back. Now the parking mode setting is saved. Looking at the display on the dash cam, you see a P there that tells you the parking surveillance is enabled. Now turn off the ignition.
Entering the parking surveillance mode.
The dash cam will power off and go into parking surveillance mode. So right now, if there's any impact to the vehicle or detects motion, the dash cam will record the events. And when you come back to the vehicle and you turn on the ignition,
new parking monitoring video available. Please check the album within the app.
If there was an event recording, the dashcam will prompt you letting you know there's an event, and you can view and download the recorded video using the app. Now let me show you how to check the recording using the mobile app. Connect to the dashcam. Now go to album. Select parking surveillance. So here are all the parking surveillance recording. You can select the front camera, cabin camera, or rear camera. Select the recording, and it'll play back the recorded video. Now at the bottom, you can download the video or delete it. So it's very easy to use the app to view the recorded video and download it to your phone. Now let me show you some example of motion detection recording and the time-lapse recording with this dashcam. If you're looking for a complete protection package for your vehicle, I highly recommend getting this 70mai 4K T800 dashcam that has the 3 cameras, and also getting the 4G Hardwire Kit that'll give you remote surveillance and tracking of your vehicle. Along with this battery pack, you'll be able to capture any events while the vehicle is parked. Now this battery pack can be used for other dashcams. It's not only for 70mai dashcam. So if you already have an existing dash camera system and you want to add a battery pack to it, definitely consider this one here. I'll list all the product links below so you can learn more about it. I hope you found this video to be helpful. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for watching this video. To support this channel, remember to click on thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and turn on the notification bell so you get notified of new videos.